Hi everybody, my name's Andrew and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to review the Makita SP6000J track saw. I purchased this saw just after Christmas, so I've had it a couple of weeks now. And it's a direct upgrade for my Evolution circular saw that I purchased from Screwfix. This is the first saw that I had, and I've had it for 2 years, and it cost me £50. The SP6000J is a great saw in my opinion. The first thing that I do when I got this saw out of the box was I check my plates. So I just check my plates to see if the saw is warped, and the saw wasn't warped at all. The bottom plate was perfectly flat, which is a great thing. If you find that your plate is warped, you should take it back to the manufacturer straight away. That's on any track saw, not just this one. I'm not going to give an overly technical view of this saw. I'm not going to go into tech specs or anything like that. I'm just going to give you my opinions on the saw, just a couple of the basic features, what I like about the saw, whether you should buy it or not, and maybe just a demonstration at the end of the saw actually working. So the first thing when you take the saw out of the box is that you notice is that the plunging mechanism, the handles are quite good, they're well made. I find they're smooth. I find that the plunging operation on the saw is pretty smooth as well. There is a scribing tool just on the back, so if you press the button here, I hope you can see okay. If you press this button in here, this will let you scribe to 2mm, and that's great for whenever you are doing worktops or veneers or plywood and you want to keep it you don't want to chip out. Now, not that the saw will chip out too much anyway. The supply blade in the saw is actually quite fantastic. It's one of my favourite blades. So I think the blades actually retail at £70, the replacement blades. So when you click this back in, you can push the saw down to the desired depth. The depth gauge on this saw, I hope you can see okay, is just here. So you undo this knob, you can slide it down to whatever depth you want. I think it goes to 53 mils, 53 or 55 mils. You can let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, and then you can plunge down to the desired depth. Bringing it back up, it has a numbered gauge, quite a clear numbered gauge. So if I'm cutting 18mm plywood, I'll set it to around 22 or 23 mil deep. You don't want to set it too far down because you're having a lot of blade going through a minimal amount of wood, and it's not good for the blade. So that's that feature. There's two knobs, one at the front and one at the back of the saw. If you open these two knobs and two clips just at the bottom, you can bring the saw to a 45-degree cut. Now when you're cutting at 45 degrees, I'll show you in a second, when you're cutting at 45 degrees, there's this clip that you can see. You push it in or out. This clip will go onto the track, and I'll show you the tracks in a second. This clip will go onto the track, and if you have this clip engaged, it will stop your saw from tipping over. If you don't have it engaged, you can see what happens. So I bring it back in. Forgot to mention, there's a little button here that little switch here that you flick up, and you can then pull your saw to a 48 degrees, so you can overcut by 3 degrees, and you can undercut the saw by -1. So you can go -1. I call it a -1 degree cut. That's handy if you're cutting worktops or panels or something that you want to fit tight against the wall. You can undercut it just to get it to fit in. So now I push this back in, bring it back around to the 0, and put my stops back on. The supplied track with the saw is very good. I quite like this here track. There's also 3 points of contact on the back, so if you put this down on your wood, it won't move. It won't move at all. It's good 3 points of contact on that saw, on that track. So I quite like that. The retail price of the saw is £300. The retail price of the saw with two 1.5 meter tracks on Axminster is £388, and that was the best deal that I could find at the time. The saw itself has a gauge which determines the speed. It goes from 1 to 6. I usually keep it in around a 3. I'm usually cutting 18mm ply. I don't use too much 40mm deep oak or something like that, so I use it usually around 3 on the plywood. There's lots of great YouTube channels out there who will go into really in-depth technical spec. This is just what I like about the saw, in my opinions. Great saw. Dust extraction port's pretty good. You can turn it, and we'll hook it up to the dust extraction port whenever we're cutting this piece of timber beside us. The other saw that I had in my mind at the time whenever I purchased this was the Festool track saw, the corded one, the 240 volt one. What swayed me over that saw for this saw was the price. The Festool saw is £100 dear. It only came with 1 track. This one comes with 2. And I've read reviews saying that the saw is pretty underpowered. Now, I'm not knocking Festool. In fact, the Festool Capex is the miter saw that I want, and hopefully someday. But anyway, going off the track, that's what swayed me over this saw, was the power, the tracks, and some of the features. One thing I don't like about this saw is the handles are brilliant, by the way. They're great. The plunging mechanisms are great. I don't like the sort of cheap plasticky feel of the gauges. I find them a little bit cheap, if I'm being honest, but the rest of the saw is fine. You know, the body holding the motor is great. The handles, as I mentioned before, the supply blade, as I mentioned before, is brilliant. So that leads me to the final question: should you buy the saw? In my opinion, you should definitely buy the saw if it's in your budget and you're in the market for a track saw. You're creating a circular saw. Yes, I think you should buy this track saw. There is other good track saws on the market: Mafell, Bosch, Makita, obviously, Festool. But I went with Makita. It's a very well-known brand, a very well-respected brand. This is my first Makita product, and I think that I will be purchasing a few more Makita items based on the quality of this saw. So I'm just going to bring you over to the display that I have, and we'll just quickly show you the saw in operation, what it's like, hook it up to the dust collection, and obviously put our PPE on as well for safety. So guys, I have my PPE ready. I have the saw hooked up. I have it hooked up to my dust collector. One thing that I should mention is that the rubber along the saw will need to be trimmed, or sorry, the rubber along the tracks will need to be trimmed before you have any cut on this track. I have done this track, but I haven't done the other track, so this is why I'm using this one. I'm going to now turn on the saw, turn on the dust collector, and this portion of the video will be dubbed. The sound will be muted, okay? So that's my review of the Makita SP6000J track saw. One thing I like about this saw too, when you're cutting, is the soft start and the semi-automatic brake as well. It stops the blade spinning really fast when you start up, and also slows the blade down pretty quickly whenever you finish. Hope you like this review. Follow me over on Instagram at amwoodshopni, and if you get value from this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, bye.